Okay, new file. And, I prefer to work on some sort of gray color usually, but it doesn't really matter so much, so I'll do that. 12 by 1200, that's fine. I'll maximize this. Okay, so I will bring out my blobs right now. I'm going to pick from a color set, I think. So I can show you how to pick from a color set too. I will just pick, I'll just start with red. Click blobs. Wow, it must be using, yeah, it's using the last one. Okay, so you've got this checked, correct, for the random seed. You got to click the spinner.
Oh, okay.
See this little refresh, and it'll change the numbers. And I
Oh,
didn't turn off preview, so it's just re-rendering them.
mm-hmm. That's what I was missing.
Yeah, just click the refresh to change the random seed number. You can lower the subsample some. It'll give you slightly rougher edges, but it may speed things up. So if I change that to 1, click on preview. Yeah, it loads it a little bit quicker. So click OK. This is just sticking them right on the bottom there. So this,
The
go ahead.
I was just saying it looks like blood cells.
Yeah, it's kind of like, actually, they're COVID cells mixed with your blood, and you know, it shows the real COVID cells. No. Okay, I'll create a new layer just for fun. So how fun can it be, right? Oh, I'll show you a couple things today that are really pretty cool. And I'll do purple. And apparently the blobs here, when I added it to this palette, it's using the last known setting instead of defaulting it. So make sure you just get the default one and not this one, because it's bringing it up at the newer one. And I didn't fill that, so let me fill that. Got to fill that with a color. So blobs now. Oh, it's filling in with gray ones because I didn't switch. You can pattern. I'll try that. So you'll be creating some patterns, and so now blobs is filling it with some tree trunk patterns. Really clear. The default pattern one is usually a kind of silly one. Let's see. Hens and chickens. Everybody know what hens and chickens are? Kind of a, I don't know, succulent little castle looking or little cactus looking thing. So let me do it now with hens and chickens. And I'll make the blobs big so you can see them. 400 minimum size, maximum size. Yes, uncheck the update or the minimum size 2. That's not right. Let me turn this off. So 25 and 125. Randomize it. And OK. So now you get hens and chickens blobs. Now when I show you, when you start creating your own patterns, you're going to see a lot of potential for doing this. Right now it's just kind of like, oh, those look pretty stupid. Why would I want to do that? And I don't know, and I agree with you. But some of the, if you create your own patterns to do things, you can make really, really cool things with it. So that is, any more questions about blobs? Uncheck preview, do it on a new layer and fill that layer with You know, if you know now, because you're putting it on an alien, if your alien's purple, you could fill it with that kind of purpley background, because ideally your canvas layer will be your alien head, and then the layers above it will have your blobs. So you could sample that color from your alien for the background, and that would help you not have any little fuzzy edges around it. If you do have fuzzy edges, and let me see if I can get some good fuzzy edges here. I'm going to clear this layer off. And so all I'm doing is I'm just selecting the background and just hitting the backspace button, and it clears it. I'm going to clear the canvas too, and it clears it to gray. Let me change this to black, because I might be able to see some dark edges or some light edges. No, not with the pattern. Okay, so that's hens and chickens when you're not blobbing it, but that's not what I wanted. So I want clone source, and this is one problem with Painter that is a little, you know, frustrating until you get it to know it a little bit. Clone source fills with patterns, but clone source doesn't describe what patterns is. You can fill with the clone source, so any of these patterns that come default with it. I've got some brick ones that obviously didn't do really good things on that. But you can, you know, so don't get, when it says clone source, it says patterns, or it means patterns. When we come across more of those, where it's, in fact, we will today, instancing that, I will tell you so you can fix that. So I'm going to fill the background, though, with a darker color. And if I can zoom in and see, okay, you see it's not really light edges, but if I get in enough, you can see that it is faded a little bit toward gray edges. Let me fix one on almost white. Turn this one off. A new layer. It'll be better visible on almost white. Okay, so there's my background, and I'm going to fill it with blobs, but not gray blobs. So I better cancel that and pick that. Okay, so the subsampling's low. I'm going to go ahead and increase that so it's a little smoother edge there. Okay. And let me select to get rid of its background. Most of the time, too, I use keyboard shortcuts going through this, but I don't want you guys to have trouble following, so I'm always going to navigate to the menu unless I tell you I won't. Okay, so this is a pretty good example. See that nice little halo around that? That's generally not what you want. If you have a lower subsampling, it'll get rid of that just most of the time by itself. But the easiest way to get rid of it, or one of the easier ways to get rid of it, is to come back up, and you can do this in Photoshop too, and pick one of these photo adjusting tools, and so this dodge and burn. And I will usually make the opacity a lot higher, make the size a little smaller. Let's see. And then you can come in, whoops, that's a little too much, over the edges. And you might have to mask off the purples. But you can come in and just go around them if they're really bugging you. Now if I mask the purple, it would make this a lot easier. So let me pick this color. And I want to invert that. No, I don't. Yes, I do. So now the purple is protected. And I can come along here and get rid of the edges if they show up. You know, depending on the blending mode you use when you put them on your alien, you may not see these edges at all. And you can do the same thing here in Photoshop. In Photoshop, you'll have to pick whether you want to burn highlights, midtones, or darks, but you'll get the same thing. So now, whoops, I didn't feather my selection at all, so that's why it's getting really crisp like this. And it's burning all of the grays as equally strong, so that's why I've got a little bit more ragged edges. But you can see on that one now that most, there's none of this fringe. Actually made it a little too dark against the background there, so probably use a lighter opacity. So that's blobs. Any other questions on this?
What does the subsampling mean?
That's a real good question. I just know it makes the edges smoother. How's that for the for the artistic answer to that question?
Perfect.
That's like a programmer question. I just know it makes the edges. It has to do with how many times it's calculating them and messing around with the edges. That's all I know.
Okay.
Higher subsample, smoother edges, lower subsample, rougher edges. So now I'm going to have to edit that out of this video. So no, I'm kidding. If there's nothing else on this, I will go ahead and stop this.